it's whatever your creation beliefs are as an adult, not, you know, not just going into what your family was or what's close by. You know, it's like, hey, what do you believe or what do you think is possible, and go to what's going to stretch you and teach you, not just what something's comfortable. But some people are just comfortable and that's all they want, and that's okay. We'll have all the fun.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about this paper I gave you. And I don't want you to read and listen both. I'm going to talk about it first, and then we might read it. But I was meditating the last few days, and this came to me. You remember my little skit I did last time about the particle, you know. And this is to see the enormity of who and what we are versus who we think we are. Okay. Well, I used the illustration. Well, this is not an illustration. This is quantum physics and science. The atoms that make up our body are 99.999999 empty space. And then you have the neutron, electron, and proton, okay, which are actually light. They are particles, the particle of light coming in and out of existence. The physical realm that we see and experience is only 0.00001% of reality. And like I was sharing with them, that's like going to a beach and picking up one grain of sand and say, I'm going to enjoy the beach. And that one grain of sand represents everything you see with your and experience with your physical. We're talking about all of physical reality. Particle coming out of the wave as a particle is that insignificant to the rest of the space, which is not empty. It is the divine energy creator of all, and it houses all possibilities, infinite dimensions. But where do we look for our answers? We look in this little particle, and we have an infinite resource. But where do we look for all the answers? You know, I'm going to find it in my next girlfriend because we're going to be soulmates. I'll be happy then. I'm going to ask my doctor how to get this healing. And anything you do out here is looking right here. If you're looking out here for anything, answers. That's like looking at this 0.0000001% for your answers instead of the infinite field of all possibilities. Now, I wanted to get that perspective, see. And this is not
limited versus expansion.
Right, which is exactly right. It's right. And in fact, you know what?
I live here, and I'm trying to learn to be more aware and more present here.
Exactly, and that's what we're talking about in doing that. But we have to also be aware of what is your current perception and belief system now. See, you have to look at yourself objectively, and that's where Joe teaches about the frontal lobes. When you're in the 40% frontal lobes part of your brain, is where you step out of your programming. We are all 95% of our activities throughout the day are programmed subconscious reactions, not conscious free will choices that happened from the time you were in your mother's womb till you were about 8 years old. You were programmed. Well, and this is where I go into this. What has really happened from the early, or before we even got here, and I'm talking about who we were before we became physical, okay? We are God creators, and when we come in to this realm, what do we enter? We enter a little baby human body. And you know, when we enter that baby human body, before we did and when we did and even still, we were an all-powerful, all-knowing, omnipresent creator. But we go to sleep into this body. Are you getting the perspective?
We hit the
And
first
then,
forgetful shot.
then we get our programming. And we're told this, we are, and here's the big part of this. We're given a name, Travis. That's when it all starts. And who do we think we are? No, we're not this all-powerful being anymore. We're this physical being called Travis that has limitations, that is dependent. Think about it as a baby. What are you? You are totally, completely dependent on somebody else. So what are the first things you learn when you come in? To be dependent. Not self-sufficient, not all-powerful. So you went from all-powerful, now think about this. You went to total independent, all-powerful, all the way down to total dependence. Is it any wonder that we don't know who we are? Is it any wonder that I'm not walking on water right now? And in my belief system, there's no doubt in my mind. I can speak to that tree, and it has to do what I tell it to. If I'm operating from my God being, I have power and dominion over all creation. And this is what I'm trying to get all of us to see, is we've gone from that perspective. And here's the kicker too, on purpose.
We
This
agreed
is
to it.
this is the way it was planned. Nothing's happening wrong. This was the all in all's idea. This was the divine's idea. And I'm going to give this little particle here its free will. And I'm going to give it an experience that it's never had before, because when you're all powerful and all knowing, you don't know what it's like to be in hell. You don't know what it's like to be sick. You don't know what it's like to fail. Do you? If you're an all-powerful God being, do you have any concept of failure? No. You're all powerful. So I was realizing, thinking, this is on purpose for the experience. See, this is on purpose for you to ascend back up there. See, to make that journey from going from all powerful to particle back again. If you want to know the summary of the whole thing, that's all it is. That's all it is. See? And we've got this practice place, this reality, this to do it in, see, and to discover it and to do it. I mean, I come to realize that with the quantum physics thing, when this hit me, and I've been doing my meditations and it's hit me more and more, do you know that, and we've talked about this before, do you know there's an infinite number of versions of Kelly here in infinite dimensions? And the reason Kelly's in this place right now with me is because I brought that particular version of her into my universe. And I brought you here today into my universe.
Yeah, I believe
So-
that we chose our experiences.
Well, no, I'm talking about, no, not just chose your experiences. It changes every millisecond. You're going through a new dimension, either consciously or subconsciously. This is quantum physics now. See, I'm teaching you quantum physics. And that version of Charity I have right sitting here is the Charity in my universe. But simultaneously, she's operating in her own universe, and she's brought me into this. See, this, you can't think in terms of 3 dimension. See, we're not 3-dimensional beings. This is the other thing, and I heard Joe talk about this in his last video. You all haven't seen it yet. He said, we are actually interdimensional beings And we don't know it, see. And it doesn't mean you have to die to get to the other dimensions. So that's my point. My point is, right, and that's, yeah.
Come on, another pair of glasses.
Exactly. So, if you can get the perspective of how it started, what it put you into as a little baby. Now listen to this. This is what happened to every one of us. No one is started out any differently except, and it may be a choice, like you said. Like I may have premeditatedly chosen my circumstances for this particular experience. Okay? I may have chosen my mother to be the way she was as a parent, and my dad. And growing up on the farm initially, like the initial experience. But every one of us come in as a clean slate, but you enter a body as a baby that has genetic tendencies that you didn't pick unless you chose it beforehand. But basically, you have this brain to be programmed. You have this reality creator in your skull that is waiting for you to create whatever you want. But when you first come in, you don't have that choice because you're a baby. And whatever your parents or my parents or your parents or her parents teach us through experience and life, do you know you have a hearing neuron in your mother's womb is when you first start becoming programmed. I was doing a seminar on the brain back when I was doing charities back then. I had a obstetrician in one of my seminars. I had to tell her this story. Do you remember the story? And I was talking about how you start your programming in the mother's womb. And he said, I can tell you a story about a mother and a baby that will confirm what you're talking about. He said, she came to me and she says, I can't get my baby to calm down. You know, I want her to calm down and, you know, sleep and stuff. He says, well, did you try playing soothing music? And she says, yeah, played soothing orchestra music and all this other stuff. And she says, it's not working. And so the doctor says, he says, I thought to myself, I looked at her and said, well, she has a few tattoos there and she's kind of a biker type girl, you know. So he says, well, what kind of music were you playing when the baby was in your womb? What were you playing? She says, oh, classic rock, Led Zeppelin, the Stones. Play that and see what happens. Guess what? The baby went to sleep. Proved the science that says all of us began our programming even before we came out. And did you have a choice at that moment? Not anymore. Once you come into your baby mode, you've given up free will because you are being programmed. See? Now, this is not by accident. It's on purpose and it's meant to be. And every one of us are programmed basically till the age of 8 or 9. And Joe says, the current neuroscience says that by the time you're 35, you're operating from that 95% of the time from that programming. And it's just repeating over and over. It's just repeating over and over. So, our journey is this. We're going from complete power to complete impotence. As a baby, complete dependence. No choice in programming. No choice in environment. And we're being programmed by that environment. And we're being taught that this is our identity, that being bashful is my personality, this is who I am, this emotion, this experience that you recorded, you start believing as those things are who I am. And they're not. You are not your emotions, you're not your programming, you're none of these things. So basically now, you're eventually going to have a situation where you're going to go, wait a minute. And it might be like Joe's situation. He got hit by a car and broken back. And then he started his awakening. Okay? My awakening was at 18 when I realized that I found a mistake that the preacher made in the Bible that made me question. That was my awakening moment. And I started searching. But we all have those awakening moments and at different times, right? In our lives, Who knows when? But it doesn't matter when. You could be 80 years old and start your awakening. I don't care. You know.
And you have many
Time.
awakenings.
Yes, and
Time
you
is
have many.
nothing. It's-
Right.
yeah, it's
Well, actually,
relative.
yeah, Nick Hebert is a physicist, quantum physicist at the time. Is a time and 3D reality is a construct of the brain. We create the illusion in here first, and then we see it out here. So anyway, this hit me. I thought, okay, no wonder we look for the effect and try to change matter with matter instead of the cause of the creation within that changes matter, okay, and reforms matter, okay. So this is what we're doing in our classes right now. This is what we're doing in this. My goal for me and anyone else who wants to is to become aware. I like to say it like this. I say it in here eventually. I'm unlearning who I'm not to be who I am already am.
And remembering of who you really are. Is,
Right.
is that
Exactly.
we're on the
Exactly.
same-
Yes.
okay, okay.
But the reason I've come across Joe, and I'm still with Joe right now, I've had many teachers and many people in many ways and avenues to learn, but none of them become my guru. They're just my current. And I've told them before, I don't understand why people accept their programming. Why? They'll find one thing and they stay with it the rest of their lives. They don't see any other source. Like, and they'll follow this one person, or they'll follow this one person that is, channeling. They'll follow one channeler. Like, this is it, you know. And I'm thinking, what? You're doing the same thing. You're making a religion out of this.
Yes.
See, you're worshiping somebody that's right here in this little part. They're not in you. They're out here, and you're looking where? Out here instead of where? In here, because in here is all-knowing and all-powerful. Now, as a baby, I need outside sources first, don't I? Like we've talked about. Like, I've needed other teachers. I've needed other gurus. But they didn't become permanent with me. They became a stepping stone
Right.
up the mountain. But do you know a lot of those, I'll go back and listen to them, do you know they're still teaching the same stuff? They've not gone anywhere else. And it makes me think, oh, well, no wonder everybody else is staying, that's following them, is staying where they are. And that's, you know why I like Dr. Joe right now? He's changing constantly. He's renewing. He's getting new stuff. He's not staying where he is. He is constantly moving on and adding to and expanding. I heard him talk about something I never thought I'd hear him talk about. In one of these videos that you all are going to get to see eventually, he said, you know, if you're still stuck on skin color, you're still stuck on feminism, you're still stuck on all this stuff down here in this particle realm, he says, guess what? I'm seeing these interdimensional beings, these guys coming from other dimensions, and you think they're going to talk to you? When you're still concerned about skin color, you're still concerned about all this other stuff going on down here. So he was talking about literally, he's been seeing interdimensional big beings now.
It's like, that's what I try to tell people. It's like, how do you expect to see what else is out there whenever you won't accept what you already see?
Yes, and again, look what they've limited themselves to. But I love hearing it from Joe because you know why? Here's a guy that is a scientist too. He's using everything. He's not picking one thing, you know, and limiting it, and he's getting into these realms of interdimensional. And so I thought, yep, that's my next thing. I'm gonna start traveling dimensions now. I'm gonna start seeing into other dimensions. I'm gonna start using my pineal gland, like he talked about, and start seeing these things being revealed behind this illusion of this singular little particle, and start seeing all of it now. So that's kind of what this is talking about, is what we've got to learn to do now is, instead of being more physical than spiritual, or we're being more particle than wave of the ocean of all possibilities. So every morning, that's what this that's what this meditation he teaches that you can do. And you can, I'm not saying Joe's the only source. I know there are many people doing this. But for right now, I don't know too many people that are getting the results he's getting with the transformations. And I'm talking about immediate transformations. So, and I had another unbelievable experience this morning. I'll tell you what, I don't know about you all, and if you're doing it, but this has been the right find for me. This meditation that we did last time, I've been doing it every morning. It's just, I can't put into words the experiences I'm having. And now I'm thinking, okay, we're going to start seeing and hearing, and it's like I'm finally seeing this universe is my universe now. This is my universe. You know, just like your universe is your universe, and your universe is you're in complete charge. Did you know? You are in complete charge of every person you run into, of every event that occurs. You created it all. Whether it was consciously or haphazardly or by default, we create everything. So, how should we start our morning? Should we start what should we be doing the first thing in the morning, you know? And that's what I'm doing. I'm creating, like Joe says in his seminars. He asks the people in his seminar, he says, how many of you got up and created your day today? And he says, if you didn't, that's because you don't really believe it's possible yet. But if you do believe it, how could you miss? Why would you not be creating on purpose every day at the very beginning before you do anything else? And ironically, that's what I was doing 25 years ago when I wanted to create my music. I was getting up the first thing every morning for an hour. And ironically, too, I learned that from the Bible because that's what Jesus did. It says it was his custom to get up early in the morning every day and go to the mountain and pray. And he is my example. He's the God-man that walked on water. He's the God-man that manipulated energy and manipulated this realm and said, and you can do it too. Anyone who believes from what I am can do the same thing, and even greater, like you said. And I thought, wait a minute, Jesus, even greater than you did? You raised Lazarus from the dead. So, anyway, I'll let you read this on your own. The rest of it, that's kind of a summary. But it hit me, and I thought, do we really realize what we were before, how dependent we became when we came in, and impotent, and then taught to believe that's who we were, victims.
And then
Taught to be victims. Do what?
And that we're just to stay that way.
Yes, and that,
not that we're supposed to become like Jesus.
Right.
And
then
go
to have
schooling and
and to have
expect
religions
that.
teach you that it's after you die.
Right.
Think about that. See, they teach you that you get to experience heaven after you die. Well, Jesus even said, "Pray this way: Thy will be done, Thy kingdom come, on earth as it is in other words, we make heaven here. See, we create it here, or we create hell and experience hell. And when you look at some of those videos, those charts that Joe made later, when you get a chance to look through them, he shows you all the brain vibrations, the waves of the most highest blissful, all the way up to the gamma, which is heaven, to the lowest ones that are actually why we suffer, and it's hell. See, the slower the vibration, you're in hell. The higher the vibration, you're in heaven.